Matthew, we can't stop talking about how hot this team is. The Charlotte drained 26 threes in a 134-90 demolition of Sacramento. You're a team with Russell Westbrook on Tuesday, tying a franchise record. And then rookie Knueppel now has 247 threes this season and needs just 14 more to pass Kemba Walker for the all-time single-season Hornets record. Now, Matthew, is Knueppel making the strongest case for Rookie of the Year down the stretch?
Fake news. You said 14, but they just beat the Knicks tonight, and he made 6 3-pointers, so he only needs 8. So think about that. This is fresh off the presses. They just beat the Knicks, who the Knicks are supposed to be one of them dogs in the Eastern Conference. And that's another thing I'm talking about with the Eastern Conference, man. You got like a team like the Knicks that are supposed to be one of the best teams, and on any given night they could get dog walked by the Hornets. You don't see the Spurs and Thunder dropping random games like that. Although now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this I think the Spurs beat the Hornets the other day, but correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, I digress. My point is this: they just put belt ass on the Knicks. Your boy Knueppel, 9 for 14 from the field, 6 of 10 from 3, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. He's got to be Rookie of the Year. I don't know if that was the prompt, but he's got to be Rookie of the Year because his team is contending. His team is legit. When he got there, his team was one of the worst teams in the league. And you could say they have weapons.
Oh, yeah.
You could say they have LaMelo. You could say they have Bridges. You could say they have Brandon Miller. They had all them guys last year. Yeah. They were good players on a bad team.
So who's the denominator that made the difference?
I think it's him. I think it's Knueppel because he's opened up the floor for all of them because the way he's draining threes at a historic rate. They say he's going to – you just said it right there. And then you said 14, and I told you the real number is 8. But that's the point. That's the point. Franchise all-time three-pointers in his first season. Charlotte's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Charlotte was in there in the 90s in the playoffs playing MJ. I mean, Charlotte is not some, Johnny-come-lately team. Charlotte's been there. Yeah. And they've had three-point shooters over the years. They had Kemba Walker. They had Baron Davis, who was more of a streaky shooter than like a knockdown. But I digress. They've had different guys. They've had different guys over the years. They had Del Curry. Yeah. You talk about the original splasher, Del Curry. So they've had guys over the years that make the three ball. And this guy in his first year, unless he gets a season-ending injury tomorrow, he's almost certainly going to beat the three-point record, and he's going to beat it by a lot. And he's on a team that's now, what's their seeding now? Let's see. I try to pull it up. Oops. I'm getting stuck. Okay, after tomorrow, they will likely be the 8th seed. This isn't updated, but okay. So they're 39 and 34. I believe they're the 8th seed, but they started off the season, how many games under 500? A lot. Right. At one point they were 13 and 25. And even as recently as the end of January, they were 16 and 28.
Isn't that crazy?
They were 16 and 28.
About 2 months ago.
Now they're 39 and 34.
That is just crazy.
And they've rode this guy to it. They've ridden this guy to it. The way he makes the game easier for everybody else. When Knueppel, you just know wherever you get a 10 from the three-point line, he's going to drain it. That gives LaMelo room to do whatever the hell LaMelo's doing.
Twist shots.
Yeah, that gives LaMelo to jump around, Euro step, jump off one foot, throw it behind his head. That gives him room to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
It gives Brandon Miller room to, because Brandon Miller can get his shot or he can get his drive. But
dunk it.
But them guys, LaMelo, Brandon, Miles, they're not seeing double coverage at all this year. And I'm not saying those guys would always see double coverage besides LaMelo, but at different points when they're hot, they would. But you can't send doubles to any of those guys when you got an absolute fucking flamethrower like Knueppel from three. And here's where you can really see it.
And don't forget about LaMelo dropping threes too. They got a double threat that every team got to worry about. Not that LaMelo is as good as Knueppel, but you still got to worry about him dropping a three.
I mean, he's better than him, and LaMelo is better than Knueppel in some ways. In terms of like all around talent, I still think LaMelo's up there. But in terms of like being like a knockdown flamethrower 3-point shooter, Knueppel is so far past LaMelo and all the other guys because LaMelo's gonna make some, but he's gonna take some dumb ones where Knueppel really nothing he's taking is a bad shot. I still think LaMelo is probably an overall better player, although with like limitations, because LaMelo's playing street ball out there. LaMelo's just doing whatever the hell he wants, which is so much fun to watch, such a joy to watch. But I think it puts a ceiling on where his game can go. But when you got it doesn't even matter when you got a flamethrower like Knueppel out there. And here's my last point on this, because I can talk about how the other three guys are getting their points. But when you really look at Charlotte's roster, and you look, and this passes the eye test because I saw them play the Spurs recently. But when you look at their roster and you look at what their big men are averaging, their big men, Moose is shooting, Moussa Diabate shooting 63% from the field, and their backup center, Kalkbrenner, is shooting 75% from the field. Wow. And you know why? Because this team is so spaced out where you got killers from three led by Knueppel to where the big men, when they're getting it, they're just getting free dunks at the rim.
Because everybody's out there on. Matter of fact, so I was going to say that, right? So when a rookie is taking that many threes and still holding efficiency, that's like real scalability. And you can drop that skill on any contender and it's just going to work instantly, right? So the gravity is real too. So the defenders are like top locking him already, which opens up all that drive and kick game for everybody else in Charlotte.
What you said there about the gravity is so real because all three of them guys, Knueppel, Miller, and LaMelo, are all volume shooters from three. So Knueppel shooting 8, Miller shooting 8, LaMelo shooting 10. You might need to scale that back a little, but LaMelo shooting 37, Miller shooting 39, Knueppel shooting 44. That gravity is crazy. Where Kalkbrenner and Moose are just getting dunks because there's nobody there. Everybody's 30 feet away from the basket. Make no mistake, that is not a coincidence that their center rotation is shooting the best percentages in the league. That's what spacing will do for your